Marvel Rivals has 3 core roles: Duelist, Vanguard, and Strategist. While the heroes in these roles may seem very similar, there's actually many things that differentiate the heroes in a single role. There are about 8 roles that the current 35 heroes can be split up into, and it's helpful to know what these are and what they mean. So let's hop into it. Let's start off with the most basic role, the ranged duelists. Their main playstyle is maintaining a desirable range that will get you the most damage but force the enemies to respond. Heroes like Black Widow, Squirrel, Hawkeye, Bucky, and Hela have a slow fire rate with a shot that can do massive damage. They're meant to pick off healers and other duelists quickly or rip tanks apart. When playing Black Widow or Hawkeye, your enemy's duelists or tanks have to force themselves onto the backlines of your team to challenge you. This can strengthen your push against the enemy or weaken their kill attempt. On the flip side, we have Mr. Fantastic, Storm, and Ironman, who also do good damage, but are better at creating confusion and being focused. Everyone knows trying to pluck a good Ironman or Storm out of the sky without a Hela is absolute hell. Now, I know I'll have some shitheads in the comments telling me that Mr. Fantastic isn't a ranger and his main attack literally says punch. Now look at the trailer. What's that? He's grabbing an Iron Man and Hulk and smacking them together? Shut up. But in all reality, Mr. Fantastic is one of our first hybrid heroes. While he definitely has some qualities of a ranged duelist, he can also fit the bill of our next role. It's pretty much in the name, but there are 2 things that pressure duelists excel at: flanking and pressuring. Duh. While Mr. Fantastic is probably more of a pressure duelist, he is very underwhelming when compared to the others in this role, especially because of his subpar flanking capabilities. Flanking is absolutely integral to heroes like Psylocke, Magik, and Scarlet Witch. As a Wanda main, a goofy thing I'll see is healers absolutely saving a team, while the Scarlet main sits in the front still attempting to kill a Doctor Strange who has been on 100% health the entire game. Now, while Scarlet has a good stun and Magik or Psylocke can rip tanks apart, pressure duelists must be taking advantage of holes in the enemy's defense. Psylocke, Wanda, and Magik don't have invincibility and dashing for no reason. These are abilities complementing a fast-paced playstyle of surprising enemies to kill them quickly or escaping if something goes wrong. While Hela's job is to hit scan abuse flying heroes and Bucky's job is to grab tanks, Punisher and Starlord's DPS is higher, but individual damage is lower. Punisher's deliverance is good in a close range. You can pump duelists in basically 2 shots, but his turret and adjudication are mainly used to break shields and pressure tanks or duelists. His 2 other movement abilities complement a more pressure-like playstyle, being able to move vertically and horizontally out of any situation very quickly. Starlord's kit was built around the idea of quick, short bursts of pressure. His main attack shoots a short burst of high damage, shift allows him to fly faster than Iron Man, E is a good finishing kill, and right click allows him to bounce around, so as not to be hit as easily. This makes Starlord very good at popping in, ripping health, then rinsing and repeating until you get your aimbot ultimate. While the argument could be made for either Punisher or Starlord to be a hybrid, I find myself playing them in a much more pressure-based playstyle, which is why I would put them here. Diver duelists. You either love them or you hate them. These guys are a supplementary fighter that excel at picking off healers and taking tanks out of the battle. The point of diving is to create or relieve pressure. Wolverine can kidnap enemies, stagnating a push, Spider-Man's attacks can quickly pick off a healer in a bad position, and Venom's can redirect focus to destagnate a push. Heroes like Black Panther, Iron Fist, and Spider-Man are high damage dealers meant to dive in, attempt to pick on a lower health enemy, and get out before they take too much damage. The best dive players in the world know when the perfect time to go in is, and take advantage of tiny weaknesses a team comp may have. It's important that if you play the high damage dealers, you focus on the nuances of your kit and movement, since a bad diver can easily kill themselves if they don't know how to adapt on a whim. There are 2 other heroes in this class, Wolverine and Venom. While these guys are 100% divers, their focus is a bit different when compared to damage dealing heroes. Don't get me wrong, Wolverine especially is good at normal fights, going in and utterly ripping enemies, but his claim to fame is dragging enemies off lines to relieve pressure or help with a push. Wolverine's kit with his dash, passives, and damage reduction will want you to focus on maintaining pressure. While Venom is a tank, he's actually a hybrid, doubling as a diver. This makes him an interesting case. His DPS is significantly lower than a hero like Thor. Diving with Venom is meant to redirect focus with his dive attack, which can make healers or tanks staggered and duelists focus you, while his bonus health allows him to be detached from the team so that the healers can reinforce other parts of the push. All of this, along with his swing to get away and a kill move grab, makes Venom another one of Rival's interesting hybrid heroes. Next, let's dive. Controllers. Now, just by the name alone, could you guess what heroes are in this role? Hulk, Cloak and Dagger, maybe even Jeff. The first thing you should know about controllers is it's a duelist role. So while Moon Knight is definitely just a ranged duelist, he also excels at taking control of an area. The controller's job is to keep chokes contested by making those areas hard to break through and costly to attempt. While an Ankh is more of a reactive ability, pro players will know when and where to use an Ankh so that it won't be destroyed and it can keep getting value. While it can be argued that any hero in the game is technically a controller, it could also be argued for any one of these roles. Literally every hero puts pressure onto the enemy team. But I wouldn't call all of them pressure duelists. What defines a role to me is a hero who excels at the particular thing that puts them into that role. With that out of the way, we have our second example, Namor. Namor's turret thingies are extremely good for distracting and racking up damage. These aren't as effective as an Ankh, but if left unanswered, easily weaken duelists, and even when answered, will cause heroes to focus on them, creating openings that you can take advantage of. One thing you'll see in common with all these heroes is their ultimates creating and taking space. Moon Knight's Hand of Khonshu and Namor's Horn of Proteus create space to take objectives. Peni should be a relatively obvious one. Her nest is a space-taking machine. Her movement ability also does this and ties in with the last shared theme amongst all the controllers, which is a movement-based ability. Peni has her ultimate to dash around and create space. Namor has a vertical movement ability that acts as a shield, and Moon Knight has a double jump, glide, and grapple. All of these are important to the flexible playstyle of a controller. They have to be able to know when to pacify and maintain their space, but also jump in and take advantage of potential space. A lot of people opt out of using Peni on attack, but as anyone knows, a really good Peni player on attack can be absolute hell. You just have to act on the knowledge of knowing what to do and when. That is necessary for every hero in every role. These guys work very similarly to controllers, and at least for Peni, it could be argued that she's a hybrid or even just entirely a block tank. So that brings me on to Groot. Our mystical tree guy is almost definitely a hybrid, but I'm gonna lean more towards block tank for its role. The first thing to understand is the difference between a block tank and a controller. Block tanks excel at two things: maintaining space and protecting your team. Earlier I said that the controller's job is to keep chokes contested by making those areas hard to break through and costly to attempt. While just like controllers, block tanks maintain space. They excel far less at taking potential space and are better at making space costly to attempt and protect the team. Magneto, Strange, Groot, and their shields/walls can 100% take space, but when comparing it to Peni or Moon Knight, who can reactively deny an area on a whim, it separates them from the controller role a bit. While pretty much every ultimate in the game, from Punisher to Spidey or Mantis to Hulk, can create space, Peni's and Namor's ultimate guarantee that space. Strange, Groot, and Magneto's ultimates cannot be argued to be anything short of kill moves more similar to Starlord and Psylocke. Block Tank's playstyle should be focused on protecting the team from being killed. Whether that is an ultimate or a deadly setup, the team is relying on you to protect them so that they can set up their utility and or push. These three guys have some of the highest pick rates in top ranks for a reason, with Strange having the first pick rate and 5th win rate overall. So, any of you block tanks queuing into my games, for the love of God, if you hear Judge Jury, please shield me up before I break a hole in my monitor. Now, I'll be honest when I say collectively I have 11 minutes on all the heroes in this role, so what I decided to do is research. Make sure to check out these two videos by Zesty Guides and this video by Coach Mills. Initiator tanks are best when the enemy team is losing track of you. Captain America is running around, Hulk is leaping across the map, and Thor is dashing in and away from enemies. Thor is definitely the strongest in this category and arguably a top 3 tank in the game. Thor's damage output is unmatched and his playstyle is fast and aggressive. While someone like Magneto or Strange have a pretty decent DPS, Thor and Hulk have a significantly higher damage per second, making finishing off an enemy or assisting in doing so much easier. That being said, Hulk's damage output is still a little bit lower than Thor's, so your ability to finish off kills is lessened when compared, but having a stun that can assist in finishing off enemies and an on-demand shield that can also assist in countering ults for your team is extremely handy. Cap is certainly the weakest out of the crew. His shield, while helpful, is essentially a selfish ability, and tying in with having the weakest damage in this roster on top of in general makes him essentially a troll pick. While his ability to run around and potentially beat up a healer is great, only players that have mastered his kit can excel with him. A shared trait in all of these playstyles is a buff ability. Both Cap and Hulk have shields, and Thor can get bonus health. Having these complement the high speed, DPS, and urge to final kill that the playstyle demands to be superior to others. But what is a tank without its healer? I'm going to keep this section pretty short since the concept is simple. Luna, Mantis, Rocket, Adam, and Jeff. All of these guys are great for healing. While all of them can respectively duel out, their main focus is support. With Luna, Jeff, and Mantis, you're constantly keeping your team on full health, while Rocket and Adam are rezzing teammates to keep the pressure on and the battle going. It's important when you're playing support that you know who to heal and when. Luna's guard is important to constantly be swapping around based on how your team is playing. While it's generally acceptable to put your guard on the Duelist, what if they're playing Moon Knight and sitting in the back while your Thor is running towards the pack line and getting picks? Playing support is all about awareness of the match. While your team should communicate to you what they're doing, especially in lower ranks, they won't be. So it's up to you to apply that game sense to the match so you can help carry the team to a win. The biggest thing about awareness is the use of ults. Except for Jeff, knowing when to ult is extremely important in the outcome of the match. When I'm watching Silver or Gold gameplay, I constantly see Luna or Rocket ults that are wasted or doing nothing. Trust me, I've Luna ulted right before we got Jarvis, but being aware of how the match is playing out will tune you in on when to ult. Support Duelists are one of the most interesting roles in Rivals. These guys should be applying extra DPS to nudge Duelists and tanks closer to a final kill. Just this is a good argument for Support Duelists being the most complicated role to play. I'll start this role out with the insanely obvious hero being Cloak and Dagger. If you've ever played Snow Bunny in BBC, you know that one is a healer and the other is a duelist with support-like abilities. Before you even consider playing heroes like C&D and Ranked, you need to have a good understanding of when you should be healing and where in a match you play more duelisty. While dueling out with Cloak is undoubtedly the focus, just like the rest of the heroes in this category, the focus is still support. Abilities like Terror Cape and Dark Teleportation aren't only for getting you kills, they explicitly have support attributes added on. This next one could 100% be argued to be a hybrid. The odd unique abilities don't perfectly match the definition of a healer, and if you haven't guessed, it's our horse fucker, Loki. Loki's clones make enemies unfocus your team. Your teleport lets you escape divers and snipers, and if that wasn't enough, your ultimate lets you take an enemy's form and use their ultimate. Just that alone makes Loki a duelist, and while his other abilities are far more mix-up than actual damage, they are unquestionably different than characters like Jeff or Mantis. At the beginning of this section, I said the main focus of this role is to apply extra damage, which is why Invisible Woman being here might confuse some people. First, look at the kits of Mantis, Luna, and Rocket, then compare them to Invisible Woman. All of her abilities cause damage and reposition enemies, while her ult can set up some nasty combos with any hero in the game. Her entire kit is primed for setting up her team to duel out, and while she may not be the one doing all of the damage, I think this separates her enough from the traditional healers, making her a hybrid support duelist. So tell me, do you think Invisible Woman is actually a support duelist? Do you think my list is accurate? Tell me what you think, and thank you for watching.